So here's the instructions on how to work the tax savings calculator. And I've tried to make it as simple as possible, with the idea being you have a separate tax bank account with funds that you know are not yours but are going to pay for future taxes, GST, your employees' tax withheld, and also their super. And what the idea is that you regularly do your bank reconciliations in Xero and get all your bookwork done. And then after that, this is the last step that you complete, to then incrementally increase your tax savings account. So it's not all one huge lump sum, sort of at every quarter or at the end of the financial year. So this section here, as it says account assistance recommended, I've actually locked this section, so this will be set up by me or your accountant. I do have it visible though, because just in case something changes and you might want to alert your accountant about this, but you won't have to worry about this section. So where you start is the first yellow bit, and so I'm going to put today's date, because that's what in this hypothetical I'm reconciled up to. So we, oops, enter a date within this financial year. Oh, I've made a mistake. All right, so I do have some validation checks in there. So I meant that. um, there we go. That's what I meant to put in. So in this hypothetical, I've got 10 grand in my tax savings account. Now this one here is if you still haven't paid for last year's tax and you've also got that in your tax provision account, um, this will then compensate for that. But in this case, we've already done last year's tax, so we don't have to worry about that. Now, in this hypothetical, my December installment was $2,000, so that's sort of next year's tax I've prepaid. And because we're only in November, all these others are not relevant. And in fact, in this case, I've selected quarterly BASs, by the way, so we've only got the quarterly options. If this was monthly, you'd actually have all the months. But in this case, I've got quarterly BASs just to make it simpler for this demonstration. So the last one I've lodged is my September. And as you can see, these have disappeared because we haven't hit December yet. I should also note that if some of these sections are blank, that means they're not relevant to your business. So don't stress if there's extra things in this video. I've sort of given this one all the functionality just to demonstrate everything. So the next thing here is, what date is your is your employee super paid up to? Okay, so we've paid it up to the 30th of the 9th here. And so now that's step one done. So step two, profit and loss. Now, if I have access to your Xero file, I would have hyperlinked this in. And the cool thing is, you click on the hyperlink and it takes you directly to the report that we want, which is pretty cool. So in this, as you can see from here, run a profit and loss report. In this case, the hyperlink works. If it doesn't, the way you get to it is you go into your Xero, you go accounting, profit and loss, and what this will tell you is the dates to run it from the 1st of the 7th to the 19th of the 11th. So in my case, and what you can actually do is shortcut that to year to date, 1st of the 7th to 19th of the 11th, because we're going to today's date because you've reconciled up to today. And all we're looking at is we're scrolling right down to the bottom, this net profit number, which is 50,956. In fact, I'm going to cheat and copy that. And can I paste that in? Yes, I can. Woo! Adjustments optional. I've left this white. This is more if you're instructed by your accountant to fill this in, so don't worry about that one. Now, in this case, this does allow for, let's say you're a sole trader, but you also have a job outside this. So you're doing a second job. This will allow for that. So in this situation, I have so far, gross income year to date is $5,000, and we've actually had $1,000 withheld from that. Okay, so that's section 2 done. Now, section 3, again, hyperlink. Boom. So now we need to take note of the dates. We go from the 1st of the 10th, 2023 to the 19th of the 11th. So this will tell you what dates to run the reports in. So the date. Sometimes it's easier just to select the calendar. 1st of the 10th to the 19th of the 11th. And we go create. I'll show you how to get to this if the hyperlink, if you don't have a hyperlink or it's not working. So we'll notice that it says GST 1A and GST 1B. So, 2534 for 1A, 2534, and 1B is 1B, 1624. 1624. And the way, if you don't have a hyperlink, then the way you get to it is accounting activity statement. Wait for that to load. And then what you do is you go to view custom date report, and then that'll take you to this screen. If you want your hyperlink set up, contact me and I'll try and arrange for that to happen. We'll figure out a way to get that, because it is really handy if you can go straight to that. So now we go to step 4, because these are blue, so we've only got these 2 to go. So run your payroll report, and we're looking for the 1st of the 10th, 23 to the 19th of the 11th, 23. So in here we go select date range. So there's a few options, but the bottom one, let's pick the custom date range, and 1st of October to the 19th, 2023. So tax, 3,500. So let's go in here. How much is the tax withheld? 3,500. Now, it does say run your payroll report again. And the reason being, these dates may be different depending on how often or not you pay super. So some people might pay it every 3 months. Some might pay it every month. Some might pay it every week. So these could be different, but in this case, they're the same. So we can just go off that amount. So just to reiterate, make sure that these dates are the dates that you want in the report, which they are. So super is 1,881 and 4 cents. We might as well put in the cents. Okay, and we're done. So the amount to deposit in your tax savings account is 14,686 and 4 cents. The balance should be 24,000. So as we saw earlier, we only had 10,000 in there. So what it's saying is to make it up to the amount that you should have, you need to top it up by 14,686. Now, depending on your business and how often you do it, it probably won't be these big jumps. Like I've just made some data up. Like let's say you already had 20,000. Oops, not 200,000. And you can see it comes up with a negative. It again, there's some validation checks in there to try and make things easier, but no, we want 20,000. There we go. So now it's saying top that up by 4,686. That's probably more typical of what would happen, but depending on your business and how on top of this you are. So it does give you a breakdown of what these figures are made up of. So income tax for the current financial year. Now this one, I should state that this is, as we've selected sole trader, this does go based on your individual tax tables up to your current date. It's going to do its best to extrapolate that for the full year, but as we're in a marginal tax system, and if you're not sure what that means, contact me again. It may vary. So it's a guesstimate, but because of there's so many complexities in our tax rates especially for individuals, this may fluctuate depending on sort of what tax bracket you're in and what it thinks you're going to be in for the whole year. So just bear that in mind. But it's a good guess, which is better than no guess at all. If you're running a partnership or trust, this function will actually be turned off because they're more complicated. If it's turned off and you want this to calculate, again, contact me and we'll see what we can work out. Anyway, moving along, the rest are fairly straightforward because they're based on the reports that we've put in. So GST, you owe $910 of GST. Your tax withheld for your employees is $1,000 and their super is 1,881, and so the total of all that is 24,686 and 4 cents. So there are a couple of disclaimers in here. So as you can see, and I will point this out, these figures are estimates and should be used as a guide only. The estimates rely on the accuracy of the data entered from your accounting software. These figures may not have factored in items, but not limited to, tax depreciation adjustments, closing stock, loan interest, private use on expenses, correction to errors, and other tax obligations for other entities. So, a couple of big ones. If you've got stock and we record at the end of year closing stock, opening stock, and closing stock, that can have a drastic amount of difference on the tax that you have to pay. So you need to factor that in. Also, depreciation normally gets calculated at year end. So what that means is it may be overstating the amount of tax that you have to pay because depreciation hasn't been factored in. So in other words, it might be telling you to withhold a whole heap of more tax than you should be. And that's again where you'd speak to your accountant about that. And that's sort of where these adjustments come in if there's some tax planning done. Um, the other part is bank interest. So again, that normally gets introduced um, towards the end of the financial or at the end of the financial year. So it might not be included in this profit and loss report because these sort of get journaled in by your bookkeeper or accountant at the end of the year. Yeah, so things like depreciation, you see that's missing, interest expense, that's missing. So it could, and this could be a safety net to make sure that you're actually withholding the right amount or more, more than covered for the tax being withheld. But the good thing is it will match closely to what your cash is. So if you're having a lot of sales, then it will work that out and you should have the cash there to be able to put that away. So that's just a brief rundown of how it works. See the description of this video for my contact details. And if you have any questions or are not sure about anything, um, yeah, please contact me as per the description of this video. The last thing I should say is if you've saved this and you've reopened it, this data will be here. Of course, that's now irrelevant. So all you do is just go through all the blue here and just delete. So one last thing to mention is how to get to these payroll reports if you don't have these hyperlinks working. So again, this report here, as I showed earlier, all you do is you go to accounting reports and you scroll down to payroll, and you can actually star this one if you want. So payroll employee summary. Um, By the way, if any of the other reports that I've shown isn't showing up, it's in this accounting menu. It's because we haven't shown them as a favorite, and you just do that by clicking. So as you can see, the activity statement by default is usually selected as a favorite, but for some reason, if that's turned off, that's how you turn it back on. And so again, um, to get to that payroll, so we go to accounting reports, And here we are. Scroll down to this one here, payroll employee summary. Click that, and there we go.